Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Garrett Ramela of Common Sense Coffee. Garrett, it's awesome to have you on the show.
To be here. Thank you.
No problem. The pleasure is definitely all ours. And before we jumped in, I want to read a little bit more about Garrett so you can hear about all the awesome things that he's doing. And Garrett is the president of Common Sense Coffee, which seeks to provide top tier coffee to the visionaries of the world and shares in their accomplishments. His vision for Common Sense Coffee is to become the coffee of choice for visionaries, entrepreneurs, and change makers who are building the future. Garrett is an avid learner and is working on his third master's degree studying artificial intelligence and business analytics at the George Washington University. In addition to studying at George Washington University, Garrett earned a master's in finance from American University and a master's in the management of information technology from the University of Virginia. Garrett, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for the great introduction.
No problem. You're doing so many great things and studying so many great things. And I love kind of like everything you have as the vision for Common Sense Coffee. But I wanted to kind of start, I guess, a little bit farther back and hear a little bit more on how you got started. Could you take us through what I call your CEO story? We'll let you get started with your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've always had this love for business and love for helping everyone. So, it's been a little bit over a year now. And, back when we were like sitting down and trying to come up with a business idea, we said, hey, we're really business minded. We're really into technology. What kind of business or what industry is ripe for disruption that we could put technology in to just make it better, whether it's being more sustainable, more efficient, or just really provide more value to people. And we stumbled across the thing that we all drink every single day, and that's coffee. And that's kind of how we got started. We said, hey, it's a really simple idea. Let's see if we can make it better. And that's really how it all started. We were at a backyard barbecue, and we said, hey, let's learn more about coffee.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think that so many times we forget, like I always say, technology is kind of in every single industry and every single business that you have. But so many times it isn't kind of looked at or touched or integrated into each of these industries. So I love that you kind of had that idea of the barbecue. And of course, you kind of ran with it and started to build that business and everything you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And even, you see so many businesses now that are only software based or only technology based, and they're providing that service or that product just through digital channels. But I actually, I'm an Elon Musk fan, and he said something in a speech one day that was like, hey, more people need to leave finance, leave law, and go into industries that need help, like farming and product based businesses, and see how they can impact and have that cross functional like domain expertise to be able to make the industry better, the things that we need but people aren't really paying attention to because they're not really lucrative industries like the software industry. But we really take that touch of IT and bring it into something that is not so fond of using technology, and that's really the big premise behind it.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And the idea is not lucrative yet, because I think a lot of times when you're disrupting these certain industries, sometimes it may not look like it's that lucrative. And that's where you have your Amazons, your Teslas of the world that start to take over things and start to really change not just those industries, but many, many more. So I know you all are doing that as well, too. And you're creating that environment to present those kind of visionaries and change makers, too. Could you take us through a little bit more about Common Sense Coffee? Let us know what you're doing and how you support the clients you work with.
Yeah, absolutely. So the overarching goal for Common Sense Coffee is kind of twofold. So it's to provide top tier coffee to the visionaries of the world and sharing their accomplishments. So what we mean by that is a lot of coffee makers and coffee producers, coffee roasters, they really focus a lot on the coffee and not so much on the people who drink the coffee. And we're kind of taking a different approach. We said, hey, we're going to make great coffee. So we specialize in single origin specialty coffee. So it's of good quality, but we're really focused on who is actually drinking our coffee. And we really want to target folks that are changing the world in some way. Like we've done stories on physicians, we've done stories on authors, on real estate investors. Great people come from all walks of life, all industries, all different backgrounds. And a lot of things that really happen that is great is great things come over a cup of coffee. Like you can go and have a podcast and like we're doing today and drink coffee. You could, buy a company and have a coffee with you during that meeting. So, that's kind of one aspect of the business. And then the other aspect, really deep with the technology roots, is to really push the sustainability aspect further. So we have this idea that we could uh, reduce the carbon footprint in the coffee industry by using solar technology and power an electric coffee roaster, which is now really becoming a first to market with some companies out there on a commercial scale. So what we want to do is take solar energy, use it to roast our coffee, and then distribute it just like any other coffee roaster would today. Because the coffee industry, a lot of people drink coffee, right? It's one of the largest, most consumed commodities in the world. But a lot of people don't know that for every pound of coffee that's consumed, on average, it produces 11 and a half pounds of carbon emissions, which is
Oh, wow.
huge. I mean,
Yeah.
the problem is huge, and no one really talks about it. I mean, there's some trends now where people are like coffee producers are focused more on direct trade and sustainable packaging, but fundamentally, the coffee roasting process is still really bad. It relies on natural gas or propane, and we see it as an opportunity to push it forward. And with the technology becoming better and better, like solar has really blown people like out of the water in terms of what it can do over the last decade and 2 decades, to where it's really becoming much more competitive against your natural gas and propane counterparts.
Nice. I definitely appreciate that. And I think when we first connected, we talked a little bit about obviously coffee to me is very symbolic of getting that opportunity to kind of connect, build relationships, hear stories, things like that. And I love how you kind of drill down, because I think so many times in industries, we get focused on the product and service. We forget that human aspect, and that connection that you all are building is absolutely phenomenal. And I almost feel like that sustainability piece is an extension of that. You mentioned the carbon footprint, because I think the effect that it's having upon the world and the people within the world. Sometimes we forget that, when we're building businesses, when we're, starting organizations, that we have a ability to really arm ourselves and the people that we serve with that information, but also the tools to make the world a ultimately better place.
Yeah. Our idea behind it is really, if we could be sustainable and it costs relatively the same price to produce something, why not? Why
Mm.
not do the better option? Why not do what's morally correct over the alternative? Even though the mass adoption is still using alternative methods. So we see it as a benefit long term. We think it's going to be much more profitable long term. And if it is, then if you have an opportunity to buy a cup of coffee at $1 compared to $2 using the fossil fuel coffee, then it's much better to go the sustainable route.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of definitely sounds like that's from the playbook of Elon Musk as well, too,
Yeah,
because if you're able to do it in a healthier way, and then, like you said, I think people are starting to become more aware about how they can use their dollars to support certain causes or not support certain causes. You have that opportunity to create a better world by buying the same cup of coffee you might buy already. Why not do that over not doing that?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I wanted to ask you now for what I call your secret sauce. And this could be for you or your company or a combination of both, but what do you feel kind of sets you apart and makes you unique?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so I think one thing for me is the work ethic. So I in the passion. So it's the mixture between the passion and the work ethic, because if you work on problems that are challenging, like what we're trying to do, and you're passionate about it, you're passionate about pushing the peg forward, and even if you may be a failure and come out short in the end, at least you're making progress. I feel that when you blend those two together, that's really when you boost productivity. You become really happy about your work, and it just makes it so even your team is inspired by the work that you're doing. Because you can't really convince a lot of people to come together to work on a problem that's been solved, 100, 200 years ago. They need something to inspire them that is challenging and that they're passionate about, to be able to push it forward to the next generation of folks to be able to come in and help. So I always try to frame things in, hey, what is something that I really enjoy doing, and something that is that is a little bit difficult outside of my comfort zone. And then when you put those two together, you become really inspired to really achieve what you're set out to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. The saying is, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And so I
Absolutely.
think you definitely have to have that bar, so to speak, about what it is you're trying to do, what you're trying to disrupt, or what on a deeper level, what problem you're trying to solve. And I think too, I think Mark Cuban says a lot too around you can't control everything. But one of the things you can control is your work ethic and the type of work that you put in. And if you can couple that with something you're extremely passionate about, it doesn't guarantee success, but it puts you in a more likelier moment, or I guess vantage point of being able to kind of have that success because you're truly passionate about it. You're working hard doing it, and when it comes down to whether you win or lose, so to speak, you have that on your resume, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see like entrepreneurs all the time where they may not like the work that they're doing. And, from the get go, and that's, I mean, setting yourself up for failure, because if you can't do the work that you're doing now, like when you're not getting paid, when the odds are stacked way against you, how are you going to do it 10 years from now? You're not going to be able to sustain that work ethic. So like really mixing the passion and the challenging problems makes it so you're constantly going to be kind of engaged and trying to push your team to the next level and pushing yourself to the next level.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. And I almost feel like sometimes it's I guess it's more to me showcases the abundance mindset, because I think so many times if you realize that there's lots of opportunities, you don't have to choose the one that just makes the money, so to speak, because you can choose the one that you're passionate about, because there's so many more opportunities, because there's kind of unlimited problems that can be solved. So there's unlimited opportunities to kind of solve those problems through organizations and companies. And I feel like it's short-sighted by saying, I just want to do this for X, Y, and Z, when you can be passionate about it and you can really, change the world and make an impact. And why choose one? We can choose them all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit and ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Yeah, so actually a task manager. So there's all kinds of tools out there. We in particular use Monday.com. We absolutely love it. It's a really great resource to be able to visualize the work that needs done. It puts accountability because you can assign folks to do the work. You put deadlines on there. And when you bring it into your normal daily routine, things don't fall through the cracks. They may slip up and get delayed a little bit, but they're still on the little sheet that you're working on to be able to say, hey, this is like that lingering thing that you need to focus on. You need to dedicate your time to it. So we use Monday, but there's so many tools out there. I mean, I've seen teams use them in Excel. Smartsheet is a big one. Trello is a big one. That's a free option. But you need something that is easy to use. Like we found Smartsheet to be a little complex. It's like kind of like a spreadsheet on steroids in a
Right.
sense. So we switch over to Monday, and Monday's really colorful. You have like all these, great aesthetics and user interface, experiences. So it makes the team like, hey, I want to turn that one green, turn it from red to green, and it kind of gamifies the work process a little bit. And in doing so, it keeps you accountable and kind of encourages collaboration between the group.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big fan. I use Basecamp personally, and but there's so much to be said about being able to get all the things that need to be done out of your head, out of somebody else's head or their email, and into one set place. And I think you hit the nail on the head, where I think it's probably one of the more underrated things to have in place, whether you're using, like you said, an Excel spreadsheet or Monday or whatever opportunities there might be out there, because there's so many things that there's some often to do, and to try to hold all those things in your head is kind of ultimately setting yourself up for failure and mistake to happen.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm also a big checklist person. And
Mm.
when you can create like lists of things to do with like a business process or something that you need to do, where the entrance of the funnel is just so ambiguous, it really, because the human mind cannot memorize all these things that you deal with all the time. So if you jot it down, you can go back to it, and like a book, you can update it refine it, make it better. And then after a while, after a few iterations, you have a really efficient and effective business process or just way of getting things done. And when entrepreneurs can do that, it's absolutely a hack
Yeah.
where you can increase productivity.
Yeah, and that's like a hack within a hack because, like you said, you get to document all those things and see all those things. So not only does it help you out, it also helps out the team members that are there, the team members that might be there in the future as well too, as far as documenting. And then also it allows you to, I think, be present and use your energy and time in other places because we do have limited resources as far as time and energy. So when you're not trying to remember the 100 things that we're supposed to be remembering, but you're able to focus and be your best self and where you ultimately need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Awesome. So now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget. And this could be a word of wisdom or a piece of advice. It might be something you would tell a client, or if you hopped into a time machine, you might tell your younger business self.
Without a doubt, it comes down to finding a great team. And to do that early, I think that's one of the most important things. I see a lot of folks who want to be like solopreneurs and just do everything themselves, not outsource anything, not give anyone responsibility. And I think it's incredibly important for CEOs to be able to realize that you can't do everything. If you want to make systemic change in the world, you cannot do everything yourself. Elon Musk may get the credit for a lot of stuff he does, but there's an entire team at SpaceX. There's an entire team at Tesla and the Boring Company that really help carry out this vision. And as an entrepreneur, it becomes more about the vision and developing the strategic plan and then putting people in places and helping them realize their career potential, matching them up with their abilities to get work done, and really helping to nurture the relationship between them, the work, and their organization that they're with that is super important because without a doubt, you can't get anything done yourself if you want to make massive amounts of change in the world. So really finding a great team, from the beginning or as soon as possible, uh, you know, do your due diligence, but look for business partners, look for great team members, hire slowly. And, if you have to break ties quickly, break ties quickly. But, at the end of the day, that person that you may have broke ties with may not have been a good person for the role or for your team, but they may be superstars at other roles. And as a CEO, you have to develop a judgment to be able to put people in the right places and align business objectives with people's objectives.
I love that, and the idea is getting the right butts in the right seats, so to speak. And I think so many times one of the 7 habits of highly effective people I always kind of mention is beginning with end in mind. So if you know where you're going, like you said, to really make that systemic change and to really make a huge impact, if you understand that's what your goal is or what you're trying to do, you have to understand, like working backwards from there, that you have to have a strong team. You have to have those people in place, and you have to get them in the right place and empower them and get them, prepared and comfortable and I guess ready to really, execute what's needed to be done in that stage. And I think that that's a true, to me, a sign of leadership. But I think it's something that we often forget about where we want to go and how exactly we make that happen. And we get kind of caught in holding on to everything. And that just holds us back, holds the team back, and sometimes can even hold the world from the impact that we truly could have.
Yeah, absolutely. Just out of do stubbornness, like,
Exactly.
like just let it go, trust people. That's a really big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that point you said too about sometimes not only are we holding ourselves back, we could be holding back that person as well too from being in their zone of genius, so to speak. And if we don't realize that, if we don't understand that, then we're doing a detriment to a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So now I want to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Garrett, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things is to leave the world in a much better place had you not engaged in the activity that you're engaging in. So if you're in a for-profit enterprise, right, you should be contributing value to society in some way, whether it's in my case providing coffee to people, or in Bill Gates's case where he provides software for people to be more productive. You have to be providing value to the world, and I think that's fundamentally one of the most important things. Because if you do that as an entrepreneur, that's when people will pay you for your services or pay you for your products. And that's when you can also employ people. So you give livelihoods to people and you benefit and make the economy better and push society forward. So I think, fundamentally it's really given society value in some way. And, if you do it in a nonprofit or in a government type organization, where it's not so much a for-profit thing, but there's still entrepreneurs in all those organizations. But when you provide value in some way, that gives you purpose, and that really I think is what encompasses being a CEO is all about.
Yeah, I love that, Garrett, just because it comes down to, like you said, that value, and that value can manifest itself in so many different ways and in so many different types of entities, whether we're talking about a for-profit or government agency or, or on a nonprofit agency. And I think when we kind of understand that value and understand, have we left the world in a better place by the work that we're doing on a regular basis, that really, again, kind of puts everything in line and makes us kind of, I guess, put through a filter exactly what we're doing, if we're doing the right things, and maybe need to make adjustments and changes if that's not the case. But, value is everything. And the more we can do that, the better the world will definitely be.
Yeah, yeah, and it gives you, I think one thing that's really great about it is it gives you this like never-ending vision. Because I didn't say like, give $1 million worth of value, or I
Mm-hmm.
didn't say, help 1,000 people. It's really just if you leave the world better, if everyone did that, which a lot of people do in the world, but if everyone does that, I mean, you just see so much advancement over the course of generation upon generation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still think that, I don't know if I have any statistics or anything like that, but I know that a lot of people sometimes are more prone, generally speaking, to be kind of consumers over producers. And I think when you're producing, you're in most cases producing some type of value. So I think when we start to kind of flip that switch and get more in that mindset, like you mentioned, it really starts to create that really phenomenal energy and that really phenomenal impact that we can have on the world.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I have that conversation with a lot of people. Is like really trying to readjust the consumer producer mindset.
Mm,
Because for some reason, it's like we just grow up and we're taught to just consume, consume, consume. And, it really takes a certain type of person to be able to shift and say, hey, I want to contribute more to the world than what I consume. And
mm.
once someone finds that, it's like they get hooked.
Yeah.
They get hooked to solving problems and trying to make the world better.
Yeah, I say that's at the heart of entrepreneurship. You start to see these opportunities and problems everywhere, and you
Yeah,
really do get hooked. That's a great way to put it. So, Garrett, truly appreciate that definition. I appreciate your time even more. What I wanted to do is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you can let our readers and listeners know, and of course, how best they can get a hold of you, find out about the coffee, and hear about all the awesome things you and your team are doing.
yeah, absolutely. First thing I would say to all the readers out there and listeners is, if you're thinking about starting a business, whether it's a nonprofit, for-profit, do it. I mean, now is, we're filming this in September of 2020, and I mean, the COVID-19 crisis is here. It's not going anywhere. So develop a side hustle. Try to shift the paradigm of consumption to producing, and try to just be a blogger. Make a website and just come back to it day after day with consistency. And you'll realize over the course of 10, 20 years, you're going to have something that you are extremely proud of. You're extremely proud to share with your friends, family, your colleagues, everyone. And you're going to live a massively fulfilling life. So I definitely would encourage folks to take more entrepreneurial risks. If you want to get in contact with myself or anyone from our team, just go to commonsense.coffee. You can find all of our information there. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Garrett Ramela on LinkedIn. I'm highly accessible. So you could, any social media, any LinkedIn, email, call, text, anything, just, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm really available, and I'm always looking to have chats with folks and just talk about how we can make the world better. So highly encourage entrepreneurship and collaboration and communication.
Nice. Well, I definitely appreciate you for collaborating and being on the show. And we will have your links and information in the show notes. But I definitely, appreciate that reminder about kind of flipping that switch that we kind of talked about before. And I love that you mentioned that it doesn't have to, it can be a side hustle. I think that's a better way to say it, because I think so many times we think that we have to create Tesla or SpaceX, from our homes or from our, jobs that we might have. But in reality, sometimes these great things that make a huge impact start out as side hustles. But the only way we can do that is to get started with consistency. So truly appreciate that, my friend, and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Hey, you too. Thank you.